Now we're on the top of Daf Ayin Omid Beis. V'achar now we're up to the Tefillah Shlishis, and he's wearing his big day Zav. He's being makriv the Soyer Hanasa Bachutz, which is called the Soyer HaMusafim. Again, even though all the other Karbanos Musafim, according to Rabbi Akiva, were brought together with the Tamid Shel Shachar, however, with regard to the Soyer Hanasa Bachutz, that has a different status. It's not together with the Tefillah Rishona of the Tamid Shel Shachar, but rather the Tefillah Shlishis after he completes his Avodas Hayom. How does Rabbi Akiva know that? From whence does he derive? It says in the Parasha of Musafim of Yom Kippurim, there in Parashas Pinchas, Seir Izim Echad Chatos, Milvad Chatos Yom Kippur. Milvad means after the Chatos of Yom Kippur. So the Seir Izim Anasa Bachutz has to come after the Seir of Yom Kippur. So the Seir of Musafim is not to be brought until after the Chatos HaKippurim. That's what Rabbi Akiva learns from this parsha, which is the Seir Chatos HaPnimi, and it's part of the Avodas Hayom. And therefore we have to postpone the Seir Hanasa Bachutz until Tefillah Shlishis, after he's completed the Avodas Hayom. The Achakach, after he brings the Seir Hanasa Bachutz, then Hikriv Elo v'El Ha'am. That's interesting. The Elo and El Ha'am are now being postponed until Tefillah Shlishis, whereas the Shiva Kvasim and the Par Ha'ola were brought earlier as a connection integrated with the Tamid Shel Shachar in the Tefillah Rishona. Now, again, you have to understand the reason why Elo ve'el ha'am, which logically should have been integrated with the other parts of the Karban Musaf, are separated from the Karban Musaf, and they are being brought after the Soyer HaPnimi, followed by the Soyer HaNasa Bachutz. And the reason for that is because from the same pasuk that Rabbi Akiva quoted earlier, Seir Izim Echad Chatos, Milvad Chatos HaKippurim, we derive that the Soyer HaChitzon has to be brought right after the Chatos HaKippurim, and the Elo ve'el ha'am has to be brought after the Chatos HaKippurim. And he says that the pasuk says v'yotza v'yosas olasoves olas ha'am, meaning after the avodas hayom, he's makriv these elim, and the avodas hayom is followed immediately by the soir hachitzoni, and then afterwards elo ve'el hayam ha'am. The achakach, now he's ready for the aktaras emuri achatos, which means the emurim in the par v'soir shenasu b'fnim, and all this is attached to the tefillah Shlishis. Now we have to jump forward to Tefillah Chamishis. V'achakach, he wears his big day Zav, he's makriv the Tamid Shel Ben Arbai. Mori asks, my time with Rabbi Eliezer, why does Rabbi Eliezer insist that the Korbanos HaMusaf should be postponed until Tefillah Chamishis? Ovid Yirichsiv, the Kohen Gadol should do the Avod exactly as it's presented in the sequence in the Torah itself. And therefore, Ovid Bereisha, the Torah's Kohanim, first he goes through the entire Seder Avodah that's recorded in the Torah in Parshas Achrimos, in Sefer Vayikra, which is called Torah's Kohanim. And that means the Avodas Hayom, the big day Lavan, B'Tfilah Shniya. It means the Akrav of the Elo ve'el ha'am, and Akdar Seimurei Chatos in big day Zav, in the Tfilah Shlishis. And now he goes back into the Kodesh Kadoshim, the big day Lavan, Fartzos Kafu Machta, that's called Tefillah Revius. And then after that, now he's ready for Tefillah Chamishis, Ovid. He now fast forwards from Parshas Achremos in Sefer Torah's Kohanim to Parshas Pinchas and Chumash HaPekudim, and now he's ready for the Karbanos Musafim, which will be terminated with, which will be completed with the Tamid Shel Ben Arbai. Rabbi Akiva. Now, what's the logic of Rabbi Akiva that the Karbonos Musaf should be brought together with the Talmud Shel Shachar? Kediktani time, and that we've already derived in the Tosefta, because it says in the Pasuk in Pinchas with regard to Musafim or other Moadim, Milvad Olas HaBoker Asher Olas HaTamid, which means that immediately after the Olas HaTamid, and that's the Talmud Shel Shachar, we bring the Musafim. Alma Musafim Im. It means Samachlo, immediately after the Talmud Shel Shachar Avidle. Now the Gemara is going to ask, what does Rabbi Eliezer do? How does he dash to the Pasuk Milvad Chatos HaKippurim? For Rabbi Eliezer, who holds that all the Musafim, including the Soyer Anasa B'chutz, are brought together with the Talmud Shel Ben Arbaim B'Tfilah Chamiches, and they're brought together after the Elo Ve'el Ha'am, which, as we said earlier, was in the Tfilah Shlishis, is high. What do we do with this pasuk tzir? Idzem echad lechatos mulvad chatas hakipurim. After all, Rabbi Akiva derived from this pasuk in the Tosefta that the Tzara Nasa B'chutz is brought immediately after the Tzara Nasa B'fnim, and therefore it has to come before the karbanos of the Elo Ve'el Ha'am. And that's how Rabbi Akiva derives his conclusion that the Sorah Nasa B'fnim is written in the Parshat Achrimos before the Elo Ve'el Ha'am. And what is Rabbi Eliezer going to do now, my Ovidle, with this pasuk? Ahumi Boile, he needs this pasuk to teach us a drasha that's in Masechet Shvuos. And Rabbi say, if we wanted to learn the next line in the Gemara, Be'iyun, I mean, it would take us a half hour, which we don't have the half hour. But in any event, Alma Shezeh Mechaper Zeh Mechaper. The Chatos HaKippurim, which is otherwise known as the Sarah Nasa B'fnim, is Mechaper on X. We'll see what that X is in a minute. And Zeh, the Sarah HaMusafim, which is again the Sarah Nasa B'chutz, Mechaper, it's also Mechaper on the same iniquities, the same sins that the Sarah Nasa B'fnim is Mechaper. So in other words, from the fact that this pasuk sets up a hekesh, an analogy, an equation between the Sarah Nasa B'chutz and the Sarah Nasa B'fnim, it's going to teach us that they are both similar in terms of the kapara power. And the Mishnah at the very beginning of Shavuos addresses the kapara power of these two karbanos. The Musaf carbon of Sarah Nasa B'chutz together with the Sarah Nasa B'fnim. And here we get a kishem. Kishem means an equation. Kishem chas Sarah Nasa B'fnim. Mechaper al tumas migdash v'kadashav. So we're talking about a person who was tamei and he went into the migdash inadvertently, or he was a tamei and he ate kachim, again unintentionally. And the Gemara in Shavuos Daf Zayin derives this from what it says in the Sarah Nasa B'fnim in Parshas Achrimos v'chiper al hakodesh mitumas b'nei Yisrael. So we're talking about Tumas Migdash V'Kadashav. And in such a case, the Sarah Pnimi, which is Mechaper al HaKodesh Mitumas B'nei Yisrael, it's only Mechaper in a case where he had a Yediyah. In other words, he knew initially that he was Tameh, and he forgot at the point that he ate kachim, or that the moment that he entered into the Mikdash. This is called, in the language of the Mishnah Shavuos, yesh bo yediyah b'tchila, the ein bo yediyah basof. Now, the Sarah Pnimi is mechaper in a case where he knew about the tumah, but then when it was most relevant, when he entered the Mikdash or he ate kachim, he had forgotten that he was tameh. Is now we're up to Sarah Nasa B'chutz in this hekesh. Is Eino Mechaper El Al Misha Yeshlo Yediyah. Once again, we need a yediyah, and we're talking about yediyas tuma. However, before he entered into the mikdash or he ate kachim, he didn't know at all that he had become tama. He never knew about it. After he entered the mikdash or he ate kachim, that's when he found out about it. Why? Because then the Torah specifies exactly what he has to bring, and that's a carbon olav v'yoret in Vayikra Perek Hey. So therefore, you could not have any kapara al yedei asoya. So again, what's going to be is like this. In both cases, the Sar Pnimi and the Sar Hachitzoni, it's a kapara on Tumas Migdash v'Kadosh. However, there is one difference between the two. In the case of Sar Pnimi, we have what's called Yediyah B'Tchila ve'ein lo Yediyah L'Basof. At the moment that he entered the Migdash, he's not aware of anything. In the case of the Sar Hachitzoni, he doesn't have any Yediyah B'Tchila, but he has the Yediyah B'Sof. And this is, again, as I said before, a full sugya at the beginning of Masechet Shavuos. Now, at this point, the Gemara is going to bring the next part of the Brisa to clarify the Shita of Rabbi Akiva. And this Brisa explains the Shita Satanoim that hold that according to Rabbi Akiva, they did not bring all 7 kvasim of the Musaf in one fell swoop. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishmo, Rabbi Yehuda quotes Rabbi Akiva saying that Keves Echad, they only brought initially with the Talmud Shel Shachar 1 of the 7 kvasim. The Shisha and the other 6 were brought with the Talmud Shel Ben Arbaim. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Omer Mishmo, he has a different tradition of Rabbi Akiva that Shisha kvasim and Kravim im Talmud Shel Shachar. On the contrary, they brought 6 kvasim with the Talmud Shel Shachar, and then Echad, they left the last of the Shiva kvasim for the Talmud Shel Ben Arbaim. My Tamayu D'Rabbanan. Now let's analyze these 2 shitos, Rabbi Yehuda on the one hand, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon on the other hand. Trey Kroy, there's a stira l'chora between 2 psukim, ksive, that are written with regard to the akrova, the korbanos hamusafim. Siv, in one pasuk it says milvad olas haboker, which implies that the musafim should be brought together with immediately following the Talmud Shel Shachar. But there's another pasuk in Parshas Achrei Mos. After the Kohen Gadol does his avodas hayom, v'yotza v'yoses olaso v'es olas ha'am. This pasuk seems to indicate that the musafim would be brought after the avodas hayom, because olaso v'olas ha'am, this is already the musafim that's after v'yotza, meaning after the Kohen Gadol had completed the avodas hayom. That's much later than the Talmud Shel Shachar. How do we reconcile these 2 psukim? Hilchach, therefore, Ovid minayu hacha uminayu hacha. And as part of the kvasim will be brought in the morning together with the Talmud Shel Shachar, and part will be brought after the avodas hayom, much later on in the day. Now we get into the specifics. What's the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon? Rabbi Yehuda savar Ovid chad. The Kohen Gadol should bring 1 keves, k'dichsiv, in order to fulfill the pasuk milvad olas haboker, which means that immediately after the Talmud Shel Shachar, the musaf should be brought. V'hada, now the Kohen Gadol is ready. Ovid avodas hayom, he's ready for the avodas hayom, and the shisha kvasim that are in the balance will be brought together with the Talmud Shel Ben Arbaim. Because what's bothering Rabbi Yehuda? If they would be makriv together with the Talmud Shel Shachar in the morning, shisha kvasim, as Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon has it, then dilma chulsha cholish Kohen Gadol. Maybe the Kohen Gadol would get weak, and he won't be able to complete the avodas hayom. and that's going to be the Iker Kaparas Yom Kippurim. So you're going to tire him down before he starts the Avodas Yom Kippurim and have him bring Shisha Kvasim, 6 Kvasim. The Avodah 6 Kvasim is a very heavy Avodah. Rabbi Elazar of Shimon Sover came with the Aschil once the Torah says Milvad Olas HaBoker, which means that the Musaf has to come immediately after the Talmud Shachar is Ovid Shisha. He's going to have to bring 6 out of the 7 Kvasim, because you know what? Rabbi Elazar of Shimon is afraid of the following. If you're going to tell me, as Rabbi Yehuda would have it, that we're going to push off the 6 Kvasim until the end, after he's completed the entire day's work of Avodah, Dilma Pasha, you know what? He's so weak. He's going to get lazy, and maybe he won't be mashlim the karbanos of the musafim, the other 6 kvasim. And according to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, we're not worried about the possibility that after he's makriv the 6 kvasim in the morning, he'll get so weak, as we saw Dilma, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Chulcha Cholish Kohen Gadol, and he'll get so weak when he gets to the Avodas Hayom. No. I'm not worried about the Lagabi Avodas Hayom Zorisu. He realizes, the Kohen Gadol, that the Avodas Hayom is the kishkis, is the essence, the critical part of his role as a Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippurim, the holy day of the year. And even if he's weak, he will gather together his kochos, and he'll be able to do that avodah. Now, I realize it's a little bit late. This was a very heavy daf, but I would like to complete the daf, and if you can stay, that's great. The Gemara now quotes a machlokes about how many elim of the tzibur were brought on Yom Kippurim. We always assumed it's 2, but it's not so clear. Now, according to Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva, in the Seder Avodas HaKarbanos of Yom Kippurim that was recorded both in the Mishnah and the Brisa, as we saw, we only spoke about the El Ha'am, which is mentioned in Parshas Achrimos. There's no mention, neither by Rabbi Eliezer nor by Rabbi Akiva, of the extra aisle of the Musafim, which is formulated and recorded in Parshas Pinchas. The Gemara says the Kuli Alma Mias Chad Aislehu. Everybody, whether it's Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Akiva, concede that they were makriv only 1 aisle of the tzibur. Keman, Kirebi, and this reflects the unique sheet of Rebbe, that there was only 1 aisle of the tzibur. The Sanya we learned in the Brisa, Rebbe Omer, aisle echad, Omer Khan, in Parshas Achrimos, in the record of the Avodas Yom, it says aisle echad, hu ha'omer b'chumash ha'pkudim. That's the same aisle that appears in Chumash Pkudim in Parshas Pinchas with regard to all the mutzafim of all the regalim. There's no need to bring an extra korban aisle as part of the mutzaf, since we have here in Parshas Achrimos aisle echad. Rabbi Elazar of Shimon, he disagrees. Omer, he says shnei elim. There's going to be echad or Omer Khan in Parshas Achrimos, and that's in addition to the echad or Omer b'chumash pkudim, the aisle that was brought on any yontiv, on any regel, as enumerated in Parshas Pinchas. The Gemara now analyzes this machlokas. My time of the Rebbe, how does Rebbe know that there were not 2 elim, but there was only 1 aisle? After all, the Torah talks about 2 elim in 2 different sections and 2 different svarim in the Torah. And the Gemara answers the chsiv with regard to Achremos in the parsha of the Avodas Hayom. It says aisle echad. That word echad is totally redundant. The word aisle would have been understood in the singular grammatical form as 1 aisle. So what is the word echad adding here? The answer is echad means it's the same aisle that's brought on any musaf of any regular. So there's only aisle echad. Rabbi Elazar of Shimon disagrees. My echad. What is the word echad? Mean miyuchad shebe'edro. He should bring as a karba the best behemoth that he could find, the highest quality. With the big red ribbon on. The Rebbe, from whence does he derive this halacha miyuchad shebe'edro? After all, he needs the word echad to tell you that's the same aisle of the karban musaf. Nafkalei derives from a pasuk in Parshas Re'eh. It says, "V'chol mivchar nidrechem." Beautiful. Mivchar. Mivchar means the best of the best. Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon, he holds that ayal echad is teaching me that you bring minam muvchar. So why do I need another pasuk in Dvarim Perek Yud Beis? It says mivchar nidrechem chad lechov b'chov v'chad b'nedava utzrifi. So the pasuk ayal echad is a chova, and it has to come in on muvchar. And the extra pasuk of mivchar nidrechem is referring to a nedava. And why do we need both? So the Gemara doesn't spell this out. Rashi spells it out. Why do we need two psukim? If it would have said this din in karban nedava, we would say, you know what? A karban nedava has to be min muvchar because it's a gift that's being brought on the initiative without any compulsion, any obligation on the part of the nodev, and he should beautify a gift. You bring a gift, you make it beautiful, you wrap it up. And you want to make sure that it'll be miskabel b'ratzon. But a karban chova, maybe it doesn't have to come in on muvchar. I just have to do what I have to do. I'm obligated, and here's what I bring. On the other hand, if the Torah had only told us in a karban chova that you have to bring in on muvchar, okay, I owe a chov, I better pay it up in the nicest way possible. Karban nedava, in any event, it's only my initiative and my gift gratis based on the pledge that I took upon myself. Why do I need to bring him in on muvchar? So we need both. And finally, to finish the daf for today, Ayin Omin Beis, Kidesh Yadav V'Raglov. The Mishnah says that when he is about to go into the Kodesh Kodashim, Lahoti Asakafa Machta, he first has to be Makadesh Yadav V'Raglov. Tana Rabbana, we learned to the Brisa that after Shiluach Hasoil Azazil, the pasuk says, Uba Aaron El Oel Moed. Lama Huba. What avoda is he coming now to do? He already finished the avodas hayom in the heichal. He already sent the soil azazil out. So why is uba Aaron el moed? And the answer is lahotzi esakaf v'esamachta, that he had left the kaf and the machta between the bade hashulchan, and now he has to go in his big day Lavan and take it out. Shekola Parsha, the entire Parsha of Avodas Yom Kippurim, and the Parsha of Achrei Mos Kula, here on the top of Ayin Aleph, Amud Aleph, Nemra ala Seder, Chutz mi Pasuk Zeh. The Pasuk of Hotzas Kafu Machta is out of place. Now, what I'm going to highly recommend for tomorrow is that we must have, and please remind me, a chumash in front of us to read the psukim, and we're going to isolate one pasuk that is completely out of sequence, and that's the pasuk of Hotzas Kaf Umachta. So that's in Yisrael Hashem for tomorrow. Daf Ayin Al.